Welcome back to the Resolution Room, where we turn tension into transformation through clarity, connection, and consistency. I'm your host, Dr. Nashay Lowe, and this is a space where we explore what's really underneath the moments that challenge us and how they can lead to something more honest, more human, and more whole. So let's get into it. Why conflict feels familiar. If you've ever found yourself thinking, why does this keep happening? The same tension, the same arguments, the same outcomes, just with different people or in different settings. You're not alone. One of the most common things people say to me when they're struggling with conflict is that it feels repetitive, predictable, almost scripted. And that observation is what led me to develop what I call pause the pattern. Not as a catchphrase, not as a productivity hack, but as a way of naming something many of us experience but rarely articulate. Conflict is rarely about the moment we're in. It's about the patterns we're reenacting. Today, I want to slow down and unpack what that means, why patterns are so powerful, why they persist, and why pausing is often the most transformative thing we can do. Segment 1. Conflict isn't random. We tend to think of conflict as situational. Something was said, something went wrong, someone crossed the line. But over time, especially across different rooms, industries, and relationships, I noticed something. Conflict is patterned. People respond in familiar ways when they feel threatened, unheard, rushed, dismissed, or overwhelmed. Organizations repeat the same breakdowns because their systems haven't changed. Families revisit the same tensions because roles and expectations remain unexamined. The details shift, but the emotional choreography stays the same. That's why conflict can feel so exhausting. It's not just hard, it's familiar. And familiarity creates momentum. If we don't interrupt the pattern, we tend to slide right back into it automatically. This isn't a failure of character, but it is a function of conditioning. Patterns form because they once served a purpose. They helped us cope, survive, or maintain stability in earlier moments of our lives. But what once protected us can later limit us if we don't pause long enough to notice it. Segment 2. What the pause really is and isn't. When people hear the word pause, they often think it means calming down, counting to 10, or maybe choosing better words. But the pause I'm talking about isn't primarily emotional regulation, though that could definitely be a part of it. The pause is more about restoring choice. When conflict escalates, our nervous systems take over. We default to learned responses like defensiveness, avoidance, over-explaining, shutting down, and controlling the conversation. In those moments, we're not choosing, we're reenacting. The pause is the moment where we interrupt the automatic replay long enough to ask, what feels familiar about the situation? What is my body reacting to? What am I trying to protect right now? What pattern is being activated? Without the pause, reaction feels inevitable. With the pause, reaction becomes optional. Pause the pattern is not about stopping conflict, it's about stopping the unconscious repetition of it. Segment 3. Patterns live at multiple levels. One of the reasons patterns are so hard to interrupt is that they operate at multiple levels at once. Internally, we have patterns in how we talk to ourselves under pressure. Relationally, we have patterns in how we communicate when trust feels threatened. Systemically, we have patterns in how institutions respond to tension, accountability, and change. That's why the same dynamics show up everywhere. A leader avoids difficult conversations, a team avoids naming tension, an organization avoids structural change. Different scale, same pattern. And this is important. You can't outthink a pattern that's being reinforced structurally. Awareness helps, but awareness alone doesn't create transformation. Transformation requires interruption. The pause gives us the vantage point to see the pattern clearly enough to choose something different, internally, relationally, or systemically. Segment 4. Why pausing feels so uncomfortable. Here's the part people don't talk about enough. Pausing is uncomfortable. Patterns give us certainty, even when they cause harm. They tell us what to expect and they tell us how to respond. Pausing introduces uncertainty. When you pause, you're no longer moving on autopilot. You're asking yourself to stay present without immediately knowing what comes next. That can feel risky, especially in environments that reward speed, certainty, or control. But rushing is often how patterns stay intact. When we move too quickly to fix, respond, or resolve, we skip the moment where insight could actually emerge. The pause isn't passive, it's active restraint. It's choosing not to reenact what you already know won't lead anywhere new. Segment 5. From pause to possibility. Pause the pattern alone isn't the solution. It's the opening. It creates the space where dialogue becomes meaningful instead of performative, where accountability becomes reflective instead of punitive, and where change becomes intentional instead of reactive. Without the pause, tools get applied too quickly. Frameworks get imposed instead of integrated, and solutions get rushed instead of sustained. The pause asks us to slow down not because we don't know what to do, but because doing it too fast keeps us trapped in the same cycle. And once you learn to pause, something shifts. You start noticing patterns earlier, you regain choices sooner, and you respond with more alignment even when the situation is difficult. That's how patterns begin to loosen their grip, not through force, but through awareness, restraint, and intention. Closing reflections. Most conflict doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be seen clearly. And clarity doesn't arrive through urgency. It arrives through pause. The pause is where choice returns. It's where old patterns lose momentum, and it's where something new becomes possible. So the next time conflict feels familiar, instead of asking, how do I fix this? Try asking, what pattern is being invited here? And do I want to participate? Thank you so much for tuning into our episode. If anything stuck with you, I'd ask that you please share, like, subscribe, all the above. And consider joining our new community on the school platform, the Resolution Society. Right now, membership is free for the first 50 members, and you'll get lifetime access. So be sure to join soon. We can't wait to see you there to continue these conversations in a more collaborative space. As always, thank you for joining me in the Resolution Room. If this conversation moved you, challenged you, or gave you something to carry forward, consider supporting the show. You can explore our wearable wisdom collection in our Mind Shop, where each piece is designed to spark reflection and dialogue. You can also join our growing community for behind-the-scenes conversations, resources, and support of your own journey through tension and transformation. And if you just want to say thank you in a simple way, you can always buy me a coffee. Every gesture helps keep this space going. All the links are in the show notes. And until next time, keep building in the quiet, because that's what will carry you forward.